Good evening from Rome, where thousands of pilgrims continue to gather in St. Peter's Square to mark the passing of the Holy Father, Pope Francis. He died on Monday morning at 7:35 a.m. Rome time after suffering from a stroke and heart failure. This news came as a shock to many after the Holy Father was showing signs of improvement on Easter Sunday, even appearing at the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, where he shared Easter greetings with the thousands of people who were gathered in St. Peter's Square. Well, the Vatican has announced that Pope Francis's funeral mass will take place in St. Peter's Square behind me this coming Saturday, April the 26th at 10 a.m. local time. It will be presided over by Cardinal Battista Re. He will then be buried not inside St. Peter's Basilica like his predecessors, but instead in the Basilica of St. Mary Major, something which he himself had requested. And as the world continues to mourn Pope Francis, we take a quick look back at his life and legacy. Before becoming Pope Francis, he was Jorge Mario Bergoglio, born in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1936. And growing up in a city with so much poverty, he spent much of his ministry working with the poor and advocating for social justice. In 2013, following the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, he was elected as the 266th successor of St. Peter and the head of over 1.2 billion Catholics around the world. He was the first pope from the Americas, the first Jesuit to hold the position, and the first to take the name Francis, a choice inspired by St. Francis of Assisi, a saint known for his simplicity and dedication to the poor. From the outset, Pope Francis sought to bring about a new spirit to the papacy, rejecting many of the formalities of his office. He chose to live in the Vatican guest house rather than the Apostolic Palace. He was often seen carrying his own bag or personally calling those who had wrote letters to him. His message was one of compassion, of humility, and of service, repeatedly calling on the Church to be a field hospital for the wounded, rather than a fortress of rules and doctrine. Francis was also a pope on the move. Over the course of his pontificate, he made more than 40 international trips, bringing his message of peace and solidarity to the farthest corners of the world. In 2021, he made history as the first pope to visit Iraq, a country where Christian communities had been devastated by war and persecution. He traveled to Mongolia, meeting indigenous people, Papua New Guinea, visiting tribal parts of the jungle, and went to Africa, visiting countries like the Congo and South Sudan. But it was in Latin America that he faced difficult moments. During a 2018 visit to Chile, he initially defended a bishop accused of covering up clerical sexual abuse, remarks that sparked outrage. But days later, in an unprecedented move, he admitted his mistake and asked for forgiveness. He went on to implement stronger policies to combat abuse within the Church, though critics argue that those reforms did not go far enough. Francis was deeply committed to advocating for migrants and refugees. His first ever trip was to the island of Lampedusa off the coast of Italy, where he prayed for the migrants who had perished in the sea trying to make it to Europe. On a later visit to the Greek island of Lesbos in 2016, he personally escorted a group of Syrian refugees onto his plane, bringing them back to Rome in a powerful gesture of solidarity. Throughout his papacy, Pope Francis emphasized the Church's mission to serve the poor and the marginalized. He called economic inequality the root of social evil, and he criticized unbridled capitalism for leaving too many people behind. His 2015 encyclical, Laudato Si, was a landmark document urging world leaders to take action on climate change, describing environmental destruction as a moral issue that disproportionately affected the poor. Probably the most famous quote of his entire pontificate was, "Who am I to judge?" when referring to people in same-sex relationships. Indeed, his outreach and promotion of pastoral care towards the LGBT community is something he became known for. Celebrated by some, condemned by others. He focused his efforts on trying to include those on the margins. He was a reformist, pushing for changes in the Vatican's finances and governance, which was also met with obstacles, as efforts to clean up corruption faced numerous setbacks. But despite all the challenges Pope Francis faced, he remained one of the most influential and recognizable figures in the world. He was often seen stopping his car to embrace the sick, washing the feet of prisoners during Holy Week, and urging world leaders to prioritize peace and human dignity. His messages of mercy, love and inclusion resonated far beyond the Catholic Church, reaching people of all faiths and backgrounds. His later years were marked by increasing health challenges. In 2023, he underwent surgery for a hernia, and he had suffered from recurring respiratory issues and mobility problems in recent years. Still, he remained active, continuing to call for peace, particularly in Ukraine and the Middle East. The Pope's funeral Mass this Saturday is expected to draw world leaders, religious figures, and millions of pilgrims here to Rome. Attention will then turn to the conclave and the College of Cardinals, because from them, our future Pope will emerge. But for now, the world remembers Pope Francis as a leader who sought to bring the Church closer to the people, a Pope who embraced the poor and the forgotten and the suffering. His legacy of compassion and reform will be debated for years to come, but his impact on the global Church and on the hearts of millions will not be forgotten. At the Vatican in Rome, Colm Flynn for EWTN News.